Daniel walked slowly into the ruins. The place was silent, filled with dust and broken walls. The air felt heavy, as if the past was still alive here. He had traveled across many strange planets, but this one felt different. It was not just an empty ruin, it felt like it was waiting for something. He carried only a small pack on his back. Every step echoed through the wide chamber. Old alien symbols glowed faintly on the walls. Some were broken, scratched, and almost lost to time. Daniel touched one with his fingers. It was cold, but he felt a strange energy flowing under the surface. "This place is older than Earth itself," he whispered, but no one was there to hear him. He was alone, or at least he thought he was. In the center of the chamber stood a strange object. It looked like a relic, old and forgotten. It was shaped like a pedestal with crystal veins running across it. Metal panels wrapped around it like armor. At first sight, it looked dead, just another useless piece of alien junk. Daniel laughed softly. After all this travel, I find garbage. He had searched for years, hoping to uncover something valuable, something that would change his life. But this relic looked worthless. Still, something about it pulled him closer. The air grew warmer as he approached. The chamber seemed to breathe with him. He reached out and placed his hand on the relic's surface. At first, nothing happened. Then, light burst from the cracks in the pedestal. Golden energy flowed upward like fire reaching for the sky. The floor trembled beneath his boots. Dust fell from the ceiling. The whole chamber seemed alive. Daniel stepped back quickly, his heart racing. He raised his scanner, but the device went blank. The machine inside the pedestal was far stronger than any human technology. Then he heard it, a voice, soft, deep, and echoing from the relic itself. It was not a sound carried through the air. It was a sound that moved inside his mind, and it spoke a single word. Daniel. He froze, his breath caught in his chest. His name. It had spoken his name. That was impossible. No one here should know him. This planet was empty, long abandoned. But the voice spoke again, louder this time. Daniel. It was not a mistake. The relic was calling him. His skin shivered with fear and wonder. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. He wanted to speak, but his mouth was dry. Finally, he whispered, "Who are you?" The relic answered in a voice that was both alien and human. "Captain, you have returned." Daniel shook his head. "No, I'm no captain, you're wrong." But the relic did not listen. The lights around the chamber spread wider. Alien symbols burned bright across the walls. The whole ruin was waking up. The relic pulsed again, and the sound of machinery filled the air. Panels shifted open, releasing a cold metallic scent. Holograms flickered in the air, showing alien ships, battles, and stars he had never seen before. It was a map, a memory, a history too old to understand. Daniel stumbled backward, his eyes wide. "What is this place?" he whispered. But deep inside, he already knew. This was not just a ruin. It was not just a relic. It was a starship, and it had been waiting for him. The ground shook as the relic spoke once more. This time the words were stronger, filled with command. "Daniel, Captain, take your place." The pedestal opened, revealing a glowing core. Golden light poured out like the sun itself. The warmth of it touched his skin. It did not burn, but it filled him with something powerful. He felt both fear and belonging at the same time. He turned, thinking he should leave. But behind him, the giant doors of the chamber had closed. He was trapped. The ship did not want him to leave. It wanted him to stay. Daniel clenched his fists, his heart racing. He was only a scavenger, not a leader. But somehow this relic knew his name. Somehow it believed he was someone greater. The silence broke once again with the voice. This time not soft, but commanding like thunder. "Captain Daniel, humanity awaits." The words echoed in his head. He could not run anymore. The ship had chosen him, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same. The chamber did not return to silence. The air was alive with sound, like machines breathing after a long sleep. Strange lights rippled across the walls, moving in patterns Daniel could not read. Symbols shifted and changed, glowing brighter with every pulse. It felt as if the ruin itself was watching him. Daniel tried to move back toward the door, but when he touched the wall, a surge of light pushed his hand away. The relic wanted him inside. It would not let him leave. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "This is not possible," he whispered, though no one was there to hear. The pedestal in the center began to rise. Pieces of metal unfolded like the petals of a flower. Inside, a crystal heart glowed, humming with deep energy. Every beat of the light felt like a drum inside his chest. It was not just a machine, it was alive. Then the voice came again. Stronger, clearer, no longer a whisper, but a command. "Captain Daniel, awaken the bridge." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not your captain. I don't even know what you are." But the relic ignored his words. The floor shifted beneath him, forming a path of glowing tiles. Step by step, the ship was guiding him. Against his own fear, Daniel followed. Each step made the chamber expand. Walls opened like doors, revealing more corridors hidden behind layers of stone. What he thought was a ruin was only a shell. Inside was something vast, something waiting. He walked into a hall filled with towering pillars, each one carved with alien symbols. But when he looked closely, he realized something shocking. The symbols were changing into letters he could understand. English letters. It was rewriting itself for him. Daniel's heart pounded. The words on the pillars spoke of journeys, wars, and captains who once commanded the ship. But they were not human captains. The figures carved on the stone were alien, tall, and strange. Yet here the ship was calling him captain. Why him? The voice came again, this time from everywhere around him. "Captain Daniel, the enemy returns. We must rise." Enemy? Daniel froze. There was no one here, only silence and dust. But as he stood still, he felt the ground tremble again. A deep rumble echoed from far away. Not from the relic, but from outside the ruins. Daniel's hand went to his sidearm. It was a small weapon, useless against alien machines. But it was all he had. The relic's glow turned red for a moment, as if warning him. Something was coming. He turned toward the chamber doors. Strange shadows flickered in the cracks. Shapes moved outside, heavy, tall, and inhuman. He heard the sound of claws scratching against stone, the sound of something alive. The enemy had arrived. Daniel whispered, "What have I done?" By touching the relic, he had woken not only the ship, but its watchers, the guardians who had been waiting just as long. And now they were coming. The voice filled his head again. "Captain, take command or perish." The pedestal shifted one last time. It revealed a hollow space, like a seat surrounded by glowing panels. The bridge. The ship wanted him to sit, to take control. But Daniel hesitated, his breath shaking. Outside, the first of the guardians entered the ruins. They were tall, armored in black metal, their eyes glowing with red fire. Their bodies were half machine, half beast. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. Daniel had seen many aliens in his travels, but never anything like these. They looked at him as if he was an intruder, an enemy to be destroyed. One of them raised its weapon. The chamber flared with golden light in response. Panels of energy rose from the floor, forming a shield between Daniel and the alien. The shot hit the barrier and exploded in sparks. The ship had defended him. The relic spoke again. "Captain Daniel, sit, awaken me fully." Daniel did not think. He threw himself into the seat. At once, the panels around him lit up. Symbols danced, transforming into words he could read. The ship's systems came alive. Engines, weapons, shields, all waiting for his command. The voice was no longer distant. It was now inside him, clear, strong, alive. "We are one, Captain, you and I." Daniel gripped the chair tightly. The guardians roared, charging into the chamber. But the ship's power surged through him. Panels fired beams of golden light, striking the enemies down. The ground shook with the force. The ruin was no longer a ruin. It was a warship awakening. As the last guardian fell, silence returned. Daniel sat frozen in the chair, his heart pounding. He was no longer just a scavenger. The ship had chosen him, and now the universe would know his name. The voice whispered softly in his mind, "Captain Daniel, the journey begins." The silence after the battle was heavy. Daniel sat in the strange chair, his hands gripping its edges. The air still shimmered with smoke from the destroyed Guardians. The smell of burnt metal and stone filled the chamber. He had survived, but he knew this was only the beginning. The ship's voice spoke again, calm and powerful. "Captain Daniel, you have awakened me, but you are not yet ready." Daniel frowned, breathing hard. "What do you mean, not ready? I just fought your monsters. I'm still alive." The golden panels flickered around him, shifting into new shapes. Symbols rearranged themselves until they formed words in English. Test initiated. The floor rumbled, and the entire chamber began to move. Walls slid away as if they were never solid. The ruins stretched wider, transforming into something greater. Daniel realized with shock that this was no chamber. This was only a small part of the ship's bridge. The chair tightened around him, forming straps across his chest. Daniel struggled against it. "Hey, wait, what are you doing?" The ship's voice was cold now. "Only the true captain can survive the trials. Prove yourself or be rejected." The room darkened, and suddenly Daniel was no longer inside stone walls. The walls melted away into stars. He was surrounded by the endless void of space. Planets glowed in the distance. Warships floated across the stars. It felt real, too real, but he knew it must be a simulation. One of the alien warships fired a beam toward him. The blast shook his seat. The voice ordered, "Defend your vessel, Captain." Daniel panicked. "I don't even know how this thing works." Yet somehow, his hands moved across the glowing panels. Symbols glowed under his fingers, and the ship obeyed. Golden light burst from the Relic's core. Beams of energy shot into the darkness. The alien ship exploded into fragments of fire. Daniel gasped, his body shaking with a rush of power. He had never controlled anything like this before. But the ship was guiding him, teaching him, testing him. More ships appeared, larger and faster. They fired together, beams of red cutting through the void. Daniel barely raised the shields in time. The panels around him glowed brighter, but he felt the strain. It was not just the ship under attack, it was his mind. Every hit echoed inside his skull, as if the ship's pain was his own. He cried out, "I can't do this. I'm just a scavenger." The ship's voice thundered inside his head. "No, you are more. You were chosen. You were always meant to command." Daniel pushed his fear aside. He raised his hands and slammed them down on the panels. Golden wings of light spread from the ship. Dozens of beams fired at once, tearing through the enemy fleet. One by one, the ships exploded into dust. The stars glowed with fire, and then all went dark. Daniel breathed hard, sweat dripping from his forehead. The vision faded. The walls of the chamber returned. The ruins were still around him, but now the place felt different. It felt alive. He looked down and saw the pedestal glowing with words. "Trial 1 complete." He laughed weakly. "Trial 1? There's more." The ship's voice answered. "Yes, Captain, there are many trials. Only those who endure can claim command." Before he could argue, the floor shifted again. This time, the chamber filled with images of people. But these were not aliens. They were humans. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw Earth. Crowded cities, broken wastelands, wars, hunger. He saw his own world, both its beauty and its pain. The ship spoke with a softer tone. "Do you see them? Your people are not ready for the stars. Not yet. They are divided, weak and blind. Would you lead them? Would you sacrifice for them?" Daniel's chest tightened. He had run from Earth long ago, tired of wars and greed. But here he was being asked to become a leader. The ship was not only testing his strength, but his heart. The images changed. Now he saw himself standing at the head of an army. Humans and aliens together, fighting against something vast. He heard screams, explosions, the endless cry of war. His hand shook as he reached for the panel. I don't want this. I never asked for this. The ship's voice echoed gently. Greatness is never asked, Captain, it is chosen. The stars will burn with or without you. The question is, will humanity rise or will it fall? Daniel closed his eyes. The weight of choice pressed on him. He had spent his life as a scavenger, always running. But now the ship had found him. It had whispered his name. It believed he was more. And deep down, he wanted to believe it too. The vision faded, leaving him alone again in the glowing chamber. The panels dimmed, waiting for his command. Daniel opened his eyes, his fears still there, but smaller now. He whispered softly, "All right, if I'm the one you want, then show me the way." The relic glowed brighter. The words shimmered across the pedestal. Trial 2 complete. The voice returned, calm and steady. Then rise, Captain, for the true war has not yet begun. The chamber pulsed with golden light. The words Trial 2 complete faded from the pedestal. Daniel sat in the chair, his breathing heavy, his hands still trembling from what he had seen. The visions of war, of Earth, of choices he had never wanted to make, still haunted his mind. But the ship gave him no rest. The voice spoke again, calm but urgent. "Captain Daniel, the awakening has begun. The signal has spread, and others have heard it. They are coming." Daniel frowned, his chest tightening. "Others? Who? What are you talking about?" Before the ship could answer, a deep vibration shook the walls. The sound was not from the relic. It was from outside. The chamber doors trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Daniel stood from the chair, gripping the side of the pedestal. The golden panels around him glowed brighter, as if preparing for battle. Then the ship's voice whispered in his mind. "They have arrived, the hunters, the ones who swore to bury me forever." The doors cracked open. A rush of cold air filled the chamber, carrying with it a strange metallic scent. Shadows moved beyond the broken frame. Then the first figure stepped inside. It was tall, armored in black plates. Its body was twisted with both flesh and machine. Glowing red eyes cut through the darkness. Its face was hidden behind a mask shaped like a skull, and in its hands, it carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. Daniel's stomach tightened. He recognized them from the ship's earlier visions. These were the same guardians, but stronger. Not relics of the past, but living soldiers. They were the enemy the ship had warned him about. One spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "The human has awakened the relic. Destroy him, destroy the ship, let it sleep forever." Daniel raised his sidearm, though he knew it was useless. The ship responded, its panels flaring with golden fire. Energy shields rose around him, forming a barrier of light. The enemy opened fire, beams of red energy slamming into the shield. The chamber echoed with explosions, stone cracking under the force. Daniel shouted over the noise. "Why are they here? What do they want?" The ship answered with calm certainty. "They fear humanity, Captain. They fear what you will become if I rise again. For if you command me, the stars will no longer belong to them." The guardians advanced, step by step, their weapons tearing into the golden shield. Daniel felt the pressure in his chest, as if the shield was part of his own body. He clenched his fists and shouted, "Then help me fight them." The pedestal responded. The panels lit with symbols Daniel could now understand. Weapons, defense, control. He slammed his hand onto the glowing command. Beams of golden energy shot outward. The first guardian screamed as it was torn apart in a flash of light. The others did not retreat. They roared, their voices like beasts, and charged forward. Blades of red fire extended from their arms. They leapt across the chamber, slamming into the barrier. Daniel stumbled back as cracks formed in the golden shield. He could feel their rage, their hunger for destruction. The ship's voice grew sharper. "Stand firm. Captain, they cannot take me unless you yield. You are the key. Only you can command." Daniel gritted his teeth. He raised both hands, pressing them against the panels. Golden lines spread across the floor like rivers of light. They shot upward, wrapping around the guardians. The enemies screamed as their bodies burned under the ship's power. One by one, they fell, their bodies crumbling into ash and metal. Silence returned, but only for a moment, because outside, Daniel heard more. Hundreds of voices, claws against stone, weapons charging. The first wave had only been scouts. The true army was waiting beyond the walls. Daniel's breath came fast. He turned toward the pedestal, his voice sharp. "How many of them are out there?" The ship answered with a tone that almost sounded sorrowful. "Enough to bury a world, Captain. They will not stop until I am destroyed, or until you lead me to victory." Daniel's mind raced. He was just one man, trapped inside an ancient ship. But now, the universe seemed to watch him. The enemy armies outside, Earth far away, and this ship bound to his very soul. He realized there was no turning back. By touching the relic, by answering its call, he had declared war. The ship's voice softened. "You have passed the trials, Captain. Now you must choose. Will you flee and let me die once more? Or will you rise and claim the war that was always meant for humanity?" Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. The door trembled again, ready to break. Outside, the enemy shouted their war cry. And deep within, the ship glowed like a living heart, waiting for his answer. The chamber walls shook as the enemy outside pounded against the doors. Dust rained from the ceiling, every strike sounding like thunder. Daniel stood in the center, golden light wrapping around him like armor. His heart raced, his hands trembling, but his eyes burned with fire. He had no choice but to face what was coming. The ship's voice filled his head, no longer cold, but almost human. "Captain Daniel, before the next battle begins, you must know the truth. You must understand why I chose you." Daniel frowned, his grip tight on the panels. "Then tell me, because I don't get it. Why me? Why does an ancient ship from another world know my name?" The pedestal pulsed. Golden symbols spread across the walls, shifting into images. A story unfolded before his eyes. Not words, but visions of the past. He saw stars burning. He saw fleets of alien ships waging endless wars. He saw worlds turn to ash. And among the chaos, he saw the Guardians, the same twisted beings now clawing at his door. They had once been protectors, but they had turned into monsters, hungry for control, desperate to keep their power forever. The ship's voice echoed as the visions continued. "I was born from war, Captain, forged by many races together. They built me not as a weapon, but as a promise that one day a leader would come, not alien, but human." Daniel's breath caught. Human? But Earth had nothing to do with this. We're latecomers, just crawling out of our own wars. The ship's voice grew stronger. "You are wrong. Humanity was always part of the plan. Long ago, the builders saw your kind. They saw strength in your weakness, unity in your struggle, hope in your endless fight to survive." The vision shifted again. Daniel saw Earth, not as it was now, but as it had been long ago, a blue world shining in the dark. He saw alien ships visiting in secret, leaving traces in ancient ruins, whispers in human legends. The builders had watched humanity grow, and then they had hidden the ship, waiting for the day humans would reach the stars. Daniel stumbled back, his voice sharp. "You mean this whole time, Earth was chosen? We were meant to find you." The ship's light flared. "Yes, Captain, you were always meant to find me. Only a human could awaken me. Only a human could command me. That is why I know your name. It was written in me from the beginning." Daniel shook his head, his chest heavy with disbelief. "But I'm not a leader. I'm not a hero. I'm just a scavenger picking through ruins. How can I be the one you've been waiting for?" The voice softened, almost gentle now. "Do you think the builders would choose perfection? No, Captain, they chose humanity because you rise from struggle. You fall, and yet you climb again. That is why you are worthy, not because of what you are, but because of what you can become." The vision faded, leaving Daniel alone again in the glowing chamber. The weight of truth pressed on his shoulders. The ship had chosen him, not because he was strong, but because he was human, and because humanity's time had come. Outside, the pounding grew louder. The door cracked, red light pouring in. The enemy was seconds away. Daniel clenched his fists, his doubts still there, but smaller now. The ship had given him the truth, and now it was giving him a choice. "Captain," the voice said firmly, "the Guardians will not stop. They will hunt you. They will burn worlds to stop humanity from rising. But if you claim me, if you take command, then together we will fight. And together we will show the stars what it means to be human." Daniel's heart thundered. He thought of Earth, broken but still alive. He thought of his people, who had always fought, always endured. He thought of his own life, running from place to place, never belonging. And now, this ship was telling him he was the one who could lead humanity into the stars. The door burst open. The enemy army flooded in, their red eyes glowing, their weapons raised. Daniel turned toward the pedestal, golden fire burning around him. He shouted with a voice that echoed through the chamber. "Then I claim you. I am your captain, and I will fight for humanity." The relic exploded with light. The chamber shook, walls collapsing outward. The entire ruin split apart, and beneath the stone, something vast awakened. Engines older than time roared to life. A starship, massive and alive, tore itself free from the dust of ages. The Guardians screamed in rage as the golden ship rose into the sky. Daniel stood at its heart, no longer a scavenger, but the chosen captain of a relic that would change the fate of humanity forever. The golden starship tore itself free from the ruins. Stone crumbled like sand as engines older than time roared into the night sky. Daniel stood in the command chair, golden light wrapping around him like armor. The ship had fully awakened, and with it came a new weight, a burden that pressed heavy on his chest. Outside, the Guardians howled in rage. Their ships rose from the ground like black shadows. Dozens of war vessels, their red lights glowing like blood across the horizon. They fired together, filling the skies with burning energy. But the golden ship moved with grace. Shields of light shimmered, absorbing the blasts. And with a single command, Daniel sent beams of golden fire crashing into the enemy fleet. Several ships exploded in brilliant bursts. The night turned into day. The voice of the ship echoed inside his mind. "Captain Daniel, you hold the power of 1,000 fleets. With me, humanity can rise. But you must choose what path to take." Daniel gripped the panels, his eyes fixed on the battlefield. "What path? Right now, the only path I see is survival." The ship's voice grew deeper, calm and heavy. "Survival is only the beginning. I was built to be more than a weapon. I was built to lead. You can use me to unite your people, or you can destroy me and deny the future. The choice is yours." Daniel froze. Destroy it? After everything? He could feel the power flowing through him. It was intoxicating, almost impossible to resist. But deep down he knew the truth. Power this great could save worlds, or it could ruin them. The Guardians fired again, beams of red crashing against the shields. The ship responded automatically, sending golden fire to burn them from the sky. But Daniel barely noticed the battle now. His mind was spinning with the ship's words. Unite humanity, or destroy the relic. He thought of Earth. Nations divided, leaders fighting for power. If they gained control of this ship, what would they do? Would they use it to protect, or would they tear each other apart? The ship interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, humanity will look to you. You are the first to awaken me. You are the first to command. If you rise, they will follow." Daniel shook his head. "I'm no leader. I never wanted this. I can't decide the fate of billions." The ship's voice softened. "No leader ever asks for destiny, Captain, but it comes to them all the same." The panels flickered, showing him visions once again. He saw Earth's future with him as captain. Human ships rising into the stars. Colonies built across distant worlds. Humanity standing strong against alien empires. He saw hope, unity, survival. But he also saw another vision. humans fighting among themselves for control of the relic. Civil wars, betrayal, destruction. The same ship that could save humanity could also be its end. Daniel's chest tightened, his fists clenched against the glowing panels. How could he decide such a thing? The fate of his entire species, placed in his hands by a ship built before he was born. Outside, the battle grew fiercer. The Guardians' fleet circled, their numbers endless. The ship's shields flickered under the storm of fire. The voice pressed harder. Choose, Captain. Unite your people with me, or destroy me and let humanity remain in shadows. But you cannot hesitate. The enemy will not wait. Daniel shouted, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. I don't know if humanity deserves this power, but I know one thing. The enemy out there will never stop. They'll bury us all if I don't fight back. Golden fire surged across the ship. Engines roared, weapons blazed. Dozens of enemy ships fell in burning streaks across the sky. For a moment, Daniel felt unstoppable. For a moment, he believed this was his destiny. But then he whispered to himself, power alone won't save us. We have to be better. We have to earn it. The ship's voice grew quiet, almost respectful. Then guide them, Captain. Guide your people not with power, but with choice. That is what makes humanity strong. That is why you were chosen. Daniel breathed hard. The choice still burned inside him. Unite humanity with the relic, or destroy it before greed could corrupt it. The future stretched before him like two paths, and whichever he chose, the stars would never be the same. The enemy fleet regrouped, preparing for a final strike. Daniel's hands tightened on the panels. He did not know yet what his choice would be, but he knew one truth. Whatever path he chose, humanity's fate was no longer hidden. It was awake, burning golden in the night sky, and it was calling his name. The sky burned with fire. Golden light clashed against crimson beams as Daniel's ship battled the enemy fleet. Every blast shook the air. Every explosion painted the heavens with smoke and sparks. From the ground, the ruins trembled like they were alive. Human eyes were not there to see it, but history was being written. Daniel sat in the command chair, his hands on the glowing panels. The power of the ancient ship pulsed through his veins. Every move he made was echoed by the ship. Every thought he had became action. He was no longer just Daniel the scavenger. He was captain of something greater. But the weight of choice still crushed him. The ship's voice whispered in his mind, calm but unyielding. Captain, you must decide. Claim me for humanity, or destroy me, so I can never be used against them. Daniel's eyes burned as he looked at the visions flashing across the panels. He saw Earth, his people fighting wars, struggling in broken cities. But he also saw children looking up at the stars, dreaming of a future beyond the sky. He saw both hope and danger, both unity and destruction. The enemy ships tightened their formation. Dozens surrounded him, their weapons glowing red. The Guardians inside screamed with rage. You will not rise, human. You will be buried with your fragile world. Daniel clenched his fists. Golden fire surged across the panels. The ship responded, engines roaring as it blasted through the enemy line. Beams of light cut through black hulls. Explosions shook the stars. But even as he fought, he whispered to himself, what if I'm wrong? What if I doom humanity instead of saving it? The ship's voice grew softer. Captain, the future is never certain. But that is what makes your kind different. You do not follow fate, you create it. Whatever choice you make, humanity will rise in its own way. Daniel's heart thundered. He thought of his life before this moment, running from place to place, hiding in the shadows of alien ruins, always believing he was small, always believing he could never change anything. But here, in this golden ship, with the enemy screaming at the door, he realized something. He was not small anymore, and neither was humanity. The Guardians launched their final assault. All their ships fired at once. A storm of red energy crashed toward him. Daniel stood from the chair, fire burning in his eyes. He shouted with all the strength in his voice. Then let this be our beginning. If humanity must rise, it will rise with me. He slammed both hands on the panels. The ship roared with power. Golden wings of light spread across the sky. The blast tore through the enemy fleet like the wrath of Star. Ships shattered. Flames burned across the horizon. The Guardians screamed as their army was broken. Their voices vanished into silence. When it was over, only one ship remained. Daniel's ship, glowing like a sun above the ruined world. The panels dimmed, the voice of the ship calm again. It is done, Captain. You have defeated them. Now, make your choice. Daniel closed his eyes. The silence pressed on him. He could destroy the relic now, and its power forever. Or he could return to Earth, show humanity the truth, and lead them into the stars. He thought of the children again, looking up at the sky, dreaming of more. He thought of the Guardians, terrified of humans, not because of their weakness, but because of their strength. He opened his eyes, his voice steady. I won't hide this ship. I won't destroy it. Humanity deserves the stars. And if they fight, if they stumble, I'll guide them. This ship will not be a weapon of fear. It will be a beacon of hope. The ship pulsed with golden light. Then so it shall be, Captain. Together we will show the galaxy what it means to be human. The engines roared once more. The ruins below vanished as the ship lifted higher. Through the clouds, into the endless black, the stars stretched out before him, endless, waiting alive. Daniel gripped the chair, a fire burning in his chest. He was no longer running, no longer scavenging. He was leading, and though he did not know where the path would take him, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity's story among the stars had just begun, and his name would be the first written in its legacy.